when you're living paycheck to paycheck, wishing you had more money, wishing you didn't have to work so many hours at your job, wondering if your luck would ever change. I've been there. Come along with me while I do some homemaking, cook some good, budget-friendly food, and share some encouragement when money is tight. Like with all of my other videos, I just want to have a heart-to-heart because I know that times are really tough right now, and they're tough for everybody. I think even if you are doing okay with your finances, it is so uncertain. We don't know if prices are just going to skyrocket up, if the job market's going to change, the housing market. You're going to have some emergency come up that will completely change how stable your finances and your home life feels, and it can be so stressful. So I just want to provide a little bit of encouragement. I'm going to be sharing some of my backstory that may be relatable to you and some tips I've learned along the way. I've been a homemaker for over 10 years, and I've made a lot of mistakes. I have cried a lot of tears, but we've also had a lot of triumphs. So a little backstory on me. I'm going to go back about 8 years ago when my family and I, we were living off one very small income. It was $18,000 a month, and we were living in a converted garage. It was when my husband and I only had our 2 sons. They were 2 and a new baby. And we really just tried to cut back as much as possible. And by that I mean I knew exactly how much gas it took each week to get to and from work. We would walk to the grocery store with our double stroller, and we would print multiple online coupons. It was really, really difficult, but I remembered also feeling really strong, feeling smart. I felt like I was getting smarter each day. I felt like every time we made sacrifices that we survived, we came out on top. I said, yes, we did it. We made it one more day. And that was really gratifying. And I just knew that if we were really clear on our goals, where we wanted to be, that we would get there. We just needed to be patient. We needed to think about every move we made and not just casually spend money here and there just to feel good, waste away, not track our spending. And I know some of you may be rolling your eyes thinking, well, that's what everyone says you're supposed to do, but it doesn't work for me. But I think sometimes if you just hear one more person who had to suck it up and do it that way, it may resonate with you. Okay, I heard 99 people tell me that. This is the 100th person. I think I better give it a real good college try. So I wrote down what my goals were. I kept applying for jobs to change our situation. We were living in a very expensive area. And long story short, we ended up moving to the mountains, which was perfect. And we rented a little cabin for $825, and we just loved being able to raise our children someplace where it was less expensive. We were only about 2 hours away from our family, from the grandparents, and we had nature right outside of our door every single day. Now that didn't mean it was happily ever after because we were renting, so now we had new goals, like we wanted to buy a home and we wanted to make a little bit more money so that we could travel, and we knew our sons would get older and they would want to play sports, or they would have certain hobbies that we would want to invest in, and we also wanted our family to grow. So we still had to be very frugal. We had to be very mindful of what we were spending, and we didn't just go rogue and do whatever we wanted without a care in the world. And we did meet a lot of those goals. We ended up being able to travel a little bit. We were able to support our sons in baseball, and we bought our house at the perfect time in 2019 when the interest rates were really low, and then we were able to refinance to get them even lower. And then we knew once things really started to get more expensive that we wanted to stay put. And so I'll talk a little bit about how that is a big part of being able to live without your means, being able to be a good Christian homemaker below the poverty line and not have it even feel like you are deprived or like you're missing anything. So the first thing I want to share is that you will spend money on what's important to you. And if you don't know what that is, if you don't know what's important to you, you will soon find out. And I hate to say it, but you may not like it. I'll give you some examples. I know that I love coffee, but in my college days, that was my little treat every single day that helped me just get through those stressful, tough classes. And it just became a habit to drive to the Starbucks drive-thru every single morning. And I got very expensive drinks. Over time, that just added up, and now I just felt like I was stuck in this habit. So I may not have fully wanted to acknowledge or realize that expensive luxury coffee was a value of mine, but that was the way I was living my life. Maybe you have a bunch of subscriptions, either streaming services, or you heard an influencer say, if you use my discount code, then you get a month free of whatever service, and then you just never canceled it. Then you may not realize that some of these leisure items that you don't even really spend too much time using, if someone were to look at your bank statements, they would think that these are things that you really cared about, that you really want to invest your time and money in. So again, figuring out exactly what you value and intentionally spending money on that, not just letting auto pay take care of it every single month without even realizing it, that is one great way for you to get a hold of your finances and make the most of your situation, even if you and your family do not make a lot of money. You'll notice here I'm making the tried and true tuna melts. They're not perfect. I added my homemade sauerkraut that I made a few weeks ago in one of my older videos, and it was so good. My family, I'm so grateful. I've mentioned this before, but they are not picky, and we have made some really, really delicious meals without spending too much money. So that brings me to my next point. Cooking from scratch is a very obvious and huge way that you can save money, but it doesn't have to be intimidating. Cooking from scratch really starts with just one recipe, then another, then another. I want to pause here really quickly to remind you to subscribe and like this video if you haven't already. It helps my channel grow so I could reach other homemakers like you who need encouragement and want to get a little bit of inspiration in your day. Back to my tips for living below the poverty line, homemaking below the poverty line. You'll see some homeschool here. I showed my son and I learning multiplication. My daughters were making mud pies, and here, yes, I know it will probably shock you, I handwrite a lot of my curriculum. We homeschool. We've done it a lot of different ways. I've bought books, and we have fallen in this trap where we will start a workbook and then we lose it, and then we have to start something else. And so I've found that composition notebooks are really helpful, where I just look up a topic that is developmentally appropriate for my children, and then I will just start writing a lesson. I was fortunate enough that I grew up classically educated, so I still remember a lot of the lessons that I learned growing up. I just loved school, so I just jotted down a notebook, and it's really cheap and easy. A dollar store notebook lasts us a few months, and I've just really loved it. I love that I can write my son's notes, that curriculum is in my penmanship, and it's fun to look back at those. But anyway, here I am making, I started talking about homeschool, and I did not get a chance to explain what you saw at the beginning of this segment of the video. I have an old Pennsylvania Dutch cookbook. It's from the 1980s. It's not an original from 1880s. But I'm making something called coffee kuchen, and it translates to coffee cake. It's not really a coffee cake. It's more like a bread that resembles a monkey bread, the way it pulls apart. And it was so good. So it brings me to my next point. You can actually make frugality look cool. My mother and I love to play the guess how much I spent on this game, and we just feel smart. We feel like we have cheated the system somehow. So it can be kind of a sport and a little friendly competition with whomever you're talking to, showing that you were able to make something look chic and look really suit you. And you don't have to spend a lot of money. You don't have to buy into whatever the mannequins and the displays tell you that you think you should want. That doesn't matter. You can develop your own personal style and make it look awesome. And that includes frugality, thrift store finds for your wardrobe or for your home decor. And I want to know, what is one of your favorite frugal or money-saving hacks? Share in the comments. Those still surprise me, even though I feel like I have heard everything in the book. I'm still learning new things, so I would love to hear any tips or tricks that have really changed the game for you when it comes to saving money. And the last thing I want to share is I love Dave Ramsey. My husband and I, we got out of so many pickles because of his total money makeover. And one phrase you may have heard him say before if you do follow him. If not, you're in for a treat. He loves to say that we should live like no one else so that someday we can live like no one else. What does that mean? Yes, you do have to do strange, weird things like prepare frozen bean and cheese burritos on Sunday night as your lunch for work for the next 2 weeks. And I will be sharing a video that shows you that process and what that looks like when I do that at home. I love doing that. It's one of my favorite things to do. And that might seem weird to some people, or I'm the only person who brings a brown bag lunch sometimes. But it's because I want to be able to take my family to Japan. I want to be able to pay off my house before I'm 40. I want to be able to do things that not everyone gets to do. So sometimes you do have to live like no one else, or at least it feels like no one else is living that way, so that later on you can live like no one else in the best, most rewarding ways. Now, an update, we are not there now. We're not living on $18,000 a month, but I'm so thankful for those moments. I wouldn't be anywhere without my faith. I thank God every single day that He got us through those tough times. I always think about the story of the loaves and the fishes, where Jesus turned something seemingly insignificant into something great with extra. And I really do believe that that can apply to our lives when it comes to our finances and our homemaking, that we just trust that if we bring even just a tiny bit to the table, offered up to God with gratitude and with generosity, that we can trust that it will turn into something so much better than we ever imagined. I hope that you enjoyed this video, you enjoyed seeing a few of my homemaking things, and please, again, share this with anyone you know. I hope that it encouraged you to keep going even when things are hard. I know that these are just seasons, and we're going to have some difficult ones that make us tougher and stronger and more thankful, but we're also going to have really, really good times that will make us glad we had something challenging to compare it to, that really make us appreciate everything we have. Thank you, and God bless.